Hi, this is Lisa Blair. I'm a process-oriented psychotherapist based in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I have a women-centered international private practice, and you can learn more about me on my website, lisablairma.com. This is my third video in a series I'm calling Therapy Under 5, where I take a question I've received from a client or a friend or another person who's looking for a more process-oriented or depth-oriented answer to their question, and I give myself about 5 minutes to give you my initial thoughts on that. It's not meant to be comprehensive. If I had more time, I would probably have more to say, or if we were in dialogue together, I'm sure that subtleties and other points that are really important would come up. So these are just sort of my general answers, not also geared towards the questioner themselves. That's keeping anonymous, but also out of their protection, but also in wanting to apply to a more general viewership. So hopefully something of this will be applicable to you in your life. And so I have my timer here. I'm going to set it for 5 minutes. And here is the question. It was from a client. When someone close to me, like a friend, my partner, or a family member, hurts my feelings or offends me, what should I be taking responsibility for, and what should they be taking responsibility for? And how do I talk to them about it? So there's a couple quick points I want to make before I answer the question. The first is what we're talking about here is a kind of a conflict, even though it may be a relatively minor one. Conflict is really a spectrum of experience, from momentary, tiny, minor incidents that you get over in 2 seconds, all the way to major conflicts, world conflicts, and everything in between. But anytime you have a moment of difference between at least two people, and in this case there's some level of injury involved, again, even if it's minor, you're in a conflict, you're in the land of conflict. And that can be scary and intimidating for most people on some level. And that's because I think in part there's strong feelings involved, right? We get hurt, we get offended, the strong feelings that come up, and it's important to hold that in ourselves and with each other holistically. And what I mean by that is can we have respect for our feelings? Can we have them in a non-shaming inner atmosphere and between us and the other person? Can we hold those feelings, and can we respect each other and take each other seriously? I think is important. If that doesn't happen, then the situation can escalate really quickly and more injury can happen. And I think that's why people are, generally speaking, kind of gun shy to go into any conflict or to share their feelings when they've been hurt. The second quick point I want to make is to consider who the person is that you're thinking of talking to. How open are they to dialoguing about feelings? Have they said they're not open at all, or are they giving you that impression? That's important to consider for your own protection. Have you ever worked out conflict with them before? Will this be the first time? That would make a difference as to how you want to approach them. Do you feel safe bringing things up with them? Are you feeling emotionally or physically threatened by them? That's certainly something to consider for your own protection. And you might want to talk to a therapist about that, how to best support you given that scene. Is that something you even want to do, if it's right for you? And in general, just getting the kind of support that you need for the kind of person that you are, because people really vary quite a lot on what they're comfortable with in terms of expressing their deeper feelings, telling someone they've been hurt. Some people are very quick to be able to do it, and some people it's really scary and they're really shy, and it's something they need a lot of support around. So in terms of what should you be taking responsibility for and what should they be taking responsibility for, there's an idea out there that everyone is solely responsible for their own feelings and that no one else is responsible for your feelings. Another way that's talked about is that we each choose how we feel and we react. In my opinion, that's only a half truth. The half that I think is true about that is a couple points. First is no two people respond exactly the same way to the same statement or the same situation. So in that sense, we each are responsible for our feelings and our reactions. Another point is that if we have a history, a trauma in a spot where we've been really hurt before, and then this current moment, this current statement, or this current action by this person touches on that, it may be a tiny little bit of what we experienced largely in the past that really hurt us. But their statement, how they said it, or what they did, their behavior, touches on some deep wound inside. Extra strong feelings may come out, and that's something to know. I've certainly done that. I've had that happen to me. So in that sense, in that flavor, yes, we are responsible, and the reaction we may be having might not be exactly equal to the current situation, the current statement, the current behavior, and that's just something to keep in mind and to have some self-reflection about, and get some support about as well. Another thing is that if you're unconsciously treating yourself in a certain way that's hurtful internally, and then but you don't know that, you don't really know you're doing that, and then somebody does that to you, that's another moment where we can have a stronger reaction to that person than that may warrant in that situation. It might be equal, but it might not be. It might be because we've been treating ourselves so badly inside that then when somebody touches on that a little bit, we have a really big reaction that we haven't been having to ourselves. Just something to consider. I say all this with a very important caveat and fine line, and this is where that statement about us being solely responsible is only half true in my opinion. We don't live in a vacuum. None of us live in a vacuum. And certainly when it comes to things like sexism, racism, anti-Semitism, homophobia, transphobia, any of those kinds of prejudices and bigotry in the world, those are real. And people's words and actions do legitimately hurt us. They can legitimately hurt us. They have an effect on us. That's for certain. Words, tones, attitudes, and actions, especially when coming from these kinds of places. To relegate all of those kinds of reactions and feelings when somebody treats us in that way as saying that's our responsibility, that we're choosing to have that reaction and those feelings, I think is a very shaming attitude, very hurtful attitude to have. So while we are partly responsible for our feelings and reactions, we are also part of a world web of relationships and of how we treat each other, whether that's meant to be malevolent or it's just plain ignorance and unintended. Still, these things do have an effect on us, and that's important to note. Quickly, I'm way past my time, but I'll try to close it up here. In terms of talking to the person about it, I think the best thing to do is to really speak from a feeling place. I think that tends to be the most effective way to talk to somebody, rather than just making an accusation, a complaint, or a more aggressive tone, although that certainly can be the right thing to do depending on the kind of relationship that you have, how long term it is, what you've been through together. So there's a lot of subtlety here that I don't have time to go into, but in general, speaking from your feelings, that hurt me, that I felt really scared when you did that, or small when you did that, or rejected, or jealous, or angry, or hurt, or whatever it is. Speaking from that place, I think, is a really good place to start. And if you're on the other side, and this is an important thing for all of us to be better at, when you're on the other side of hearing that from someone, even if you didn't intend it whatsoever, you had no conscious intention of hurting that person, see if you can take a moment and self-reflect, either in that moment or say, I need to take a break and get back to you. How is that at least 3% true? Were you in a bad mood that day? Are you still kind of pissed or irritated about something with that person from a week ago or a year ago, and that kind of flavored your response to them? Then you need to bring that up. Do you have some biases, some prejudice, some projections that were coming out in you in the moment that you need to kind of own and pick up and say, yeah, that's kind of true. I do have that belief in me. I think that's really important in working these kinds of things out, that we can self-reflect, that we can take some time to say, even if I never intended it, I wasn't conscious of it, but I can step into their shoes and I can see how there's truth to what they're said. There's at least 3% truth to what they said to me, and then I have a little blind spot there, and that's worth looking into. If you can do that, it's a huge help to your relationships and working out conflict. And that may need to be a continued dialogue with that person. Maybe you're hurt and that came out in that moment and you never expressed it, and so you're kind of getting some vengeance or taking something, getting them back for something. That's worth going back and forth about. And hopefully you can each hold that and respect what you're doing together and care for it, and take each other seriously, take each other's feelings seriously. That can really lead to a lot of intimacy and closeness in relationship when you can share that way. And it doesn't only have to be a scary and intimidating thing. I think it can be a very healing experience. So good luck with it, and thanks for watching. I know I went way over this time. I'll try to keep it a little bit tighter in the future. Thanks so much. Take care.